Welcome to part 2 of working with the sequencer in Reason 8.3. Let's just go ahead and jump into this. This video will be a lot shorter than the first one here. We actually covered a lot of ground, so this shouldn't be too bad here. One basic thing that I didn't mention before is that when you're arranging audio, the view that we have mostly been in is the song view. If you would like to do further editing of clips, whether they're MIDI or audio, then you're going to be using either the inline editor or the comp editor. So to enter the first one, the inline editor, which you can still do while you're in this arrange view, you simply double click on an audio clip and you're in the inline editor. And here you can work with the slice markers, and I'll hit H to zoom out a bit here. You can work with the slice markers and stretch your audio. You can delete markers out by selecting and just hitting delete. You can select groups of them. If you're going to be doing any manipulation to the audio, just be sure that you do have the stretch and transpose type correctly set. All around is for, and actually I mentioned this in the first one, all around is for polyphonic material, melodies for monophonic, and vocal is for vocal. To exit out of the inline editor, just simply hit escape. I'll hit G to shrink this in. Now for the comp editor, if you are working with a MIDI clip or a comp mode clip, simply double clicking will open up the comp editor. So if I double click on this MIDI clip and see we're there in the editor. Now if I escape out of here and then I go to this comp clip and double click, you see we're in the comp editor. And this is where you can choose segments from different recordings that will be on different comp rows, and you select these segments by choosing the razor tool and clicking. Everything to the right of where you click will be then used in your final bounce down clip. So if you choose a group of segments, another way you can choose a segment is by clicking and holding. So I'll click and hold that there. So we've got these switches between two different comp rows that we're using this audio for. You can then click the bounce button and bounce that down to one single take clip, just like so. The single take button is now active and we'll only hear the audio from this clip. These gray areas are what we have chosen from these two other at the bottom. And to leave the comp editor, you just hit escape. One thing to take note of is that you are given visual indicators of, actually I'm going to double, and then once you bounce that down, if you double click, you're going to get the inline editor, so you can work with slice markers. But I'm going to open comp edit and take this off of single take mode just by deselecting that. Escape out, because I wanted to let you know that one quick way to know whether you're going to get the inline editor or the comp editor is you have several dots here in the bottom right corner of this clip letting you know that it's a comp clip. This one here, you have two parallel bars. This means that it's in single take mode, but there is additional audio that's just not being played. So if I double click, choose the open in comp, you can see we've got this grayed out audio file that is not active, and this button is selected for single take mode. I'll escape out, and this has no indicator, so we just know you double click, it's a single take clip. There is no additional audio in there whatsoever. But you could still open that in the comp editor, but there's nothing there. You could also select a clip and hit Control E, and that will open up the comp editor. I'll select this, Control E. So those are the two different ways of editing within Reason. I'll select the MIDI clip, Control E. And so next we'll move on to the transport. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because I have a whole video on the transport. So essentially you've got your keys, on-screen keyboard, you've got access to the Groove Mixer. The keys can be accessed also by hitting F4. This here is going to give you a readout of your song position pointer. So bar 6, beat 3. Now we're on bar 7, beat 1, the first 16th note, and this is ticks. So this goes by bar, beat, 16th notes, and ticks. You can arrow up to move the song position pointer. And this is the time position of where you are in the song. You can also double click in these and manually enter a location. Click on and off. You can also hit C. Pre, this is for turning your pre-count on. You can choose between 1 bar, 2, 3, or up to 4. And that's within your preferences. The volume level for your click track. Tempo, you can double click and put something in. You can click and hold and drag. Alternatively, you can use the minus and plus key on your numeric keypad if you have one. Some laptops don't have a numeric keypad if you're using a laptop. You can also tap your tempo in with this by clicking here. Time signature, double click and put something in. Fast forward, rewind, 4 and 5 on your numeric keypad accomplish the same thing, as well as 7 and 8. 8 fast forward, 7 rewind. So play will start. 0 is stop. 0 on the numeric keypad. You can also just click these. The asterisk button on the numeric keypad is record. Let's see here. So if you would like to duplicate, say, an audio track, you can. If you would like to, say you have some effects on this track within the mixer, I'll hit F5. You've done some EQing. I'm just going to do some random adjustments here. You can see that this is highlighted on. I'm going to F7 to get back to the sequencer. So you can hit dub, and then that will create a new audio track with your same settings. F5 for the mixer. And okay, I turn the EQ on the actually on the instrument and not the audio track. So I'm going to delete that there. Let's F7 and go to the mixer. Audio track 2. I'll get it together here. So we want audio track 2 in the mixer. I will make some adjustments. On the EQ. And so we want to use these settings then on another audio track, but say a different audio clip, but the same EQ settings. So we want audio track 2 in the sequencer. This is selected. If you hit dub, you now have a duplicate. It's labeled as dub. If we F5, now you can see we do have the same settings here. F7 for the sequencer. You can accomplish the same thing with the Alt button, but with Alt it will mute the previous track that you are duplicating. That's really the only difference between Alt and dub. So if I F5 and go, and as you can see, we have our same EQ settings. A quick way to do this, another way to do this rather, is you can hit 3 and 6 on your numeric keypad. 3 is dub, 6 is Alt, and you can tell that because it muted the previous track that we duplicated. Okay. Loop, that will just turn your loop mode on based on where your markers are. You can set your marker by holding down Control and clicking in the ruler there. If you hold down Alt and click, then you can set the right loop marker there. One other way to set your markers is selecting a clip, holding Control L. I'll hit G to zoom in. So I've got this MIDI clip selected, I'll Control L. We now have our loop locator set on either end. You can then hit L and turn on your loop. The / on the numeric keypad does the same thing. These here will let you know where your loop locators are. So the left one is on bar 5 and 26 for the right. And of course you can move these with the arrow keys, double click, to manually input. If you'd like to move your song position pointer to either loop locator, you can hit 1 to move it to the left. So if you take note of the song position pointer, I'll hit 1. We're at the first left loop locator. I'll hit 2. We're now at the right loop locator. And you just have various indicators here for automation. I've got a video on that, so check out the video on automation if you'd like to know more. There's a calculation progress indicator here for when you're stretching audio and manipulating audio. Reason will do a background render of the audio and give you a quick live version of the audio, but it's not the highest quality. It then performs a higher quality render in the background. And that just lets you know the progress on that. This is the processor load for the song you're working in, your input level and output level. And this is a new feature in Reason 8.3 where you can drop your songs directly to the Propellerhead website to their music sharing service. So next, one other thing, if you're working in a song, and this is a random thing, but if you'd like to insert some bars in a certain area of your song, say here you'd like to put some more audio in, one thing you can do is just you need to set your loop locators. So I'll just set mine here, and you right click and choose insert bars between locators, and you've now got additional bars. Now of course you can Control Z and get rid of that, but just to show you, there is the opposite of that. You can remove bars between locators as well. Now let's take a look at the relationship of tracks and other devices in Reason, because I think this is something that can be confusing for a lot of people. Let's start with the instrument track. So when you create the track, when you have it in the sequencer, it's basically to contain your clips, and your clips contain your MIDI data. So the track is then also partnered with a device in the rack. So, and you have an icon to let you know this is the Thor. So if I F6 and go to the rack, this is the instrument that is partnered with that track. Okay, and you can see PPG texture, and then in the mixer, F5, you've got a channel strip. So you've got the track, the instrument device, and the channel strip. And when you create an instrument, you're typically going to also have the mix channel device. The channel strip in the mixer essentially is kind of like a remote control for the mix channel device. Let's see what else here. So if you have an audio track, this is where if you want to record vocals, you'll have your clip here, and it contains the audio for your vocals. This is then paired with an audio device in the rack. So we'll F6 for the rack. Let's get rid of these two to simplify. So Twinkle Stars, F6, and that's just folded up in a smaller view. This is the corresponding rack device for the audio track. And then, as with the MIDI track, in the mixer we will have a channel strip for the Twinkle Stars. Now, when you are, this is something very basic that I didn't really touch on in the first video, but in order to set your master keyboard input, if you'd like to play an instrument within the sequencer, you just want to be sure that you've got this gray triangle here next to your MIDI instrument. If I bring up my on-screen piano keys, and that's very quiet. Okay, now you can set the master keyboard to an audio track, but that's really for if you are planning on controlling. I'm going to F5 to bring up the mixer. If you're planning on controlling some of the parameters on the channel strip here. So if you have a MIDI controller that has some knobs on it, some faders, and you'd like to use those instead of using your mouse, in that situation you'd want to be sure that you've got that gray area on the audio track. Also, the very last thing for this video is another basic thing that I forgot to mention in part 1 is when you are working with the tools here, you can hold down Alt and you will have an alternate tool that will pop up here. So I have selection tool that I'm using currently. So if I press Alt, I get the pencil tool, and I can draw in. And now I'm back to the selection tool. If I hit W and bring up the pencil tool, Alt will give you the selection tool. E for the eraser, I hold down Alt, and you get the pencil tool. R for the razor, Alt will give you the pencil tool. T for mute, I hold down Alt, and you get the razor. Y for the magnifying, Alt will give you the hand tool. And U for the hand tool. Holding down Alt will give you the magnifying tool. Okay, just some very basic things, but they could be useful. And with that, I think we'll wrap up part 2. Hope that you're feeling more comfortable with the sequencer and that you've got some useful tips from here. Thanks for watching.